Has it gone red? Yes, it has. Okay, I am live with Christian Connoisseur, or he's put Phil as his name. So, how are you today, Phil? All feeling good?
I am doing good. I'm doing good. How are you
Uh,
doing today?
I'm okay. England have just lost in the rugby, so I can't say I'm overly pleased with the direction of the sport. Um, but
Oh yeah.
those things. I suppose. Are you much of a rugby fan, Phil? You much of a
No, I don't know much about it. It sounds like it's cool, but other than that, I
very
don't know much about it.
similar to American football. I would say better, but
It's
that's
like
my sort
it's
of
like a very
bias speaking.
physical sport, like a very like
Yes, yeah,
intense. Like yeah. They
like
use like those
American
long,
football.
like a long stick with like a net on it, I think. Or was that a different game?
A long stick with a net. Now that's like what would that be like lacrosse or something, right? Like
Oh
that's more similar to or I'm trying to think what it would be like. It's got a name. I can't remember it right now, but it's not a stick sport. It's a ball sport.
oh yeah, maybe
Um,
cross something. Maybe like this is like a horse. I don't know that one either, but it sounds really cool.
the horse one's polo's the horse one, but
Polo.
that's
That's it. Okay.
but
Okay.
you have to be well rich to play polo. Like
Yeah, oh
it's
yeah. That's
definitely
why I don't play it because I'm not like I don't have rich stupid money.
exactly me neither. I mean, I'm more yeah, I suppose you'd call it soccer in the US, but football and cricket are my main two, and running. That's the sport that I actually can play myself.
My
So
main sport I play pickleball. I don't know if you've ever heard of pickleball.
pickleball. I've heard that term mentioned. I would need reminding on what it actually consists of.
It's kind of like tennis a little bit. I don't know if you know tennis. It's a little bit.
I know what tennis is.
Oh, okay, okay. But yeah, it's a fun little sport I like to play.
Yeah, nice. No, it's always good to play sport. Right, just making sure my audio was all good. Yeah, that's all fine. So as lovely as it would be to chat sport for the whole time,
Yeah.
we have got a theme for today's conversation. I've put in the chat in the title. I actually discovered Phil's channel through a little video. I think it was a debate or a discussion that you did on fascism and the sort of the prevalence of the term and its discussion and such in contemporary society. So I suppose it'd be interesting to start with that sort of theme, really. Fascism in the world today. A lot of people are quite concerned about it. I would say myself included. Where would you say you are with that
Um.
statement?
Yeah. I think it's become more of like a normal big issue in the past, like probably the past 5 years. It's become like more prevalent. I didn't really know too much about it really, but now it's becoming more like a bigger issue. Um. I mean, I know it's existed in the past, obviously a long time ago. You had some big, like the big dogs, like they used to commit that kind of stuff, but it's kind of rearing itself back up, I think now, in
Yeah, no,
modern times again.
yeah. I mean, definitely. Nazi Germany is sort of the immediate
Yeah, yeah,
society we
that's the
think of
first
at the
one I
moment.
think of.
Exactly right. It's sort of the what we've come to societally. When someone says fascist and they're put into a specific place, that's typically where we aim our lens. But I would say a lot of people today, as you've just said, right, the last 5 years, the term has entered sort of the regular conversations a bit more. Definitely for me, it's definitely something I've said more in the last few years than I had done outside of a history class, and maybe a little bit in discussions and such. But I think now there's definitely a lot of feeling that it's something to reflect on today. And I think, I mean, obviously I'm in the UK, but in America, with the current administration, there's certainly a lot of scrutiny and focus on
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Uh, hello to Ace in the chat, by the way, who's got
Oh, we
a comment
found
that
it.
I'll come back to, but
Okay, good. If he knows where it is, then that's good. That's good.
I should
I
put it
don't.
in your Discord actually. I'll do that quickly whilst you respond to what I just said. Then actually, so what's your opinion on the people who would apply the term to contemporary American society?
Yeah. Well, 'cause the first thing in my mind that comes up, I feel like, is like obviously like the big trigger word, like Donald Trump. That's like my opinion, like where my first thoughts go to, or people. It's usually him versus like an entire group of people, like his administration and like all the right versus like the left. Um, so it's become a big problem. Um,
What's become a bit
Yeah.
different? Sorry, like what's the?
Donald Trump. People are viewing him as like a fascist.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I'm one
So
of those people, but
yeah.
is
Yeah.
that an opinion that you share? Would you say?
Um. I I'm not entirely sure if he is a fascist, but he does represent a lot of qualities that seem like he's becoming more and more like a fascist. Like I feel like he's making decisions like he's not going through like the proper channels. He just like makes a decision and just kind of pushes it out there, and like, everyone has to accept it, which I
Yeah,
feel like is it's very yeah, he resembles a fascist in a lot of ways. But
yeah,
I don't know if
very
he
very
I don't know
fascistic,
if he
right?
actually is one, but he kind of like looks and talks and acts like one. So it's
Well, exactly, right. Like it's a good
yeah.
summation. He certainly isn't going through the proper channels of things. He certainly likes the Trump as the sort of unquestionable leader versus the actual sort of
Yeah.
process of U.S. government. So I definitely agree with that. Um,
Yeah.
but as I'm sure we'll sort of come on to, I would say that this is one element of the fascistic behavior that would let us to conclude he was a fascist. But it's certainly interesting that you would like identify that because I very much agree. He's not someone who seems to be much interested in the actual operations of democracy. I mean, certainly the recent headlines we're seeing about the latest ignorance of the Supreme Court and such, but many things before that as well, right? Like
Yeah.
he's definitely someone that I think um, would fit the bill. Would you say that your not reticence, but you said that you weren't sure whether he would be specifically a fascist? Like,
Yeah.
would you say?
I don't.
Would you say? Go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. I don't know if I like actually believe he technically is one necessarily, but I mean it's a debate. Like it's a debate. He could be one technically, but yeah, he does resemble one though. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Would you say that when you say you're not sure if he's technically one, is that like as in you don't think he personally believes he's one, or like you don't think that he matches the same previous fascists we've seen in history and such? Like what's the? Because I'm
Oh,
curious, because you definitely what a lot of what you just said, Ben, I agree with, right? Like he's definitely acting in that way.
yeah.
I'm just curious as to what your not a hang up, but like a barrier almost to sort of saying, yeah, this is someone who would fit that label, or someone who
Oh,
is of that
yeah.
description.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I guess I just haven't really come to enough of a conclusion in my mind yet, whether I like really fully believe. I don't know if I really I don't know what I really fully think exactly of Trump entirely. So until I really can come to like a full conclusion, it's hard for me to put a label on something too much. I feel like,
Yeah, but like what
but
because like it's an interesting point, right? Like the idea that we wouldn't jump to a conclusion, we'd want to sort of see things in action and such. But would you say that there's been quite a lot of stuff that has happened to indicate that there is something worth identifying quite strongly as fascist in sort of action and behavior and such?
yeah, I feel like yeah, there's been a lot of stuff that he and his administration and group have done that uh yeah, they're definitely like I feel like they're going down that pathway. Um, it seems like going forward.
Yeah.
So
No, exactly right. I mean, I would say that we're not only going down it, but well underway, sort of in the process of it, right?
yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's just the I look at the because obviously I'm in the UK, right? So like, I'm not directly being affected by his policies and the stuff he says, but it's only a few stone throws away, right? Because we're ultimately we in the UK are connected to America via trade, via culture, via lots of different manners, and so when we see Trump acting in a certain way, we, and even just on a human level, like we're concerned about the ripple effect it has across the globe, right? And for the immediate effects of Americans and people in America that have to endure this kind of maleficence and such, right? Like um, I think one of the things that immediately springs to mind is the current operations of ICE, right? Like the attacks on um, immigrants and people who have a non-American background and such by ICE, through an administration that Trump has massively inflated and poured resources into. Like, would you say that's an area that meets the parameter that of fascism that we might want to try and identify?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's always for me. Let me try to figure out what I'm trying to say about it. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess with the ICE stuff and like the immigration policies. Just trying to think how I want to go about it. Yeah, I don't know. Trying to think what route.
Take as long as you need. There's no pressure, no time quandary here. I will say, Ace, if you're in the chat, I will come on to your comment in a second because I do want to discuss. It's an interesting take. So, it's just it must be an internet thing. Unfortunately, Phil, Christian Connoisseur, has lost his connectivity, which is a bit of a shame. Well, for a time being, then I'll interact with this. Ace, so you said fascism is just a flavor of socialism. That's my take. So I fundamentally disagree. Whilst it's absolutely true that some fascists in the past called themselves socialist, I will maintain this was a tactical decision more than an actual serious reflection of their political views. If we look at what the Nazis did, they obviously imprisoned the socialists and handed vast sections of the German economy to private corporations. They relied on the commodification of labor and such. But we'll come on to it more in a second. And Phil is back. Hello, Phil.
Okay. I think I disconnected for a second there. Sorry about that.
Happens to the best of us.
I think I accidentally closed the window and I'm like, oh, I'm off. Okay, sorry about that.
No, don't worry about it, honestly.
Okay, so I'm trying to. Okay, so I think what was I talking about last? The ICE stuff. So yeah, I think okay. So I think I would start by saying that I do. Like, so I support the idea of immigration. I think the idea that when people use like illegal immigration, that's a little bit more dicey. I think the way he handled it situation, I feel like wasn't very good. But like I feel like I think he was like him and his I can't remember who the guy is who's in charge of the ICE stuff, but yeah, I feel like they just weren't very they weren't very kind about a lot of the stuff. They just the way that they messaged it and like how they were going about it and stuff, it didn't help the situation.
I mean, I agree. They definitely weren't very kind, but I would say that there's a critical lens that I want to sort of explore a little bit here because it's interesting that we focus on we have that qualifier, right? Illegal immigrants, and I think that there's an important qualifier, which is that every single person in America is a human being, and even if even in the narrative that you see a lot of Republicans sort of try and weave, where they're saying, "Oh, these people have come in and they're not here legally or whatever. They're not here as a legitimate American or whatever." Like, I think that firstly, it ignores many of the socio-economic and political reasons as to why people might not have all the documentation. But more importantly, it would still be wrong to treat another human being in the manner that ICE have done, where we've all seen the footage, right, of them showing up in a neighborhood with masks on and guns and snatching people basically off the street and the pavement or sidewalk, as you'd call it, taking them from their place of work, from schools, from court appointments to even get their paperwork sorted out, and then vanishing them into a network of nebulous detention centers, prisons, supposed deportations, but seemingly don't always happen. It's quite a leap just from not being nice. I would say it's actively a fascist attempt to maintain that, fulfill that that element of white supremacy, and that sort of racial nativism is a term that has been used quite a lot, right? Like the idea of nationalism and racism sort of mixed together. And I would say that the reason a lot of people like myself would say, yeah, this is fascist, we've got to sort of be really firm with how we describe this, is because of the scale of injustice that a lot of this represents.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. I just there's probably would have been a better way to handle this, but um,
How would you handle it? Would you say? Because like I think that's an interesting point. I agree.
oh
There's
yeah, that's
definitely
fair. That's fair. That's fair.
definitely like because I agree completely. There's definitely a better way to handle it. But in my mind, I think a society that goes around chasing people on the basis of where they're from or whether they might or might not have the right paperwork is doing something fundamentally wrong, right?
Yeah. The way I also kind of look at it is that the previous administration also did open the borders and let people in. So it's also okay. I guess like my disposition is whether I agree or disagree with like the previous people beforehand. I think it does make our country look quite bad when we have one government comes in and makes decisions, and then another one comes in afterwards and just cancels everything they did and said, and they put something new out there. It I think it causes a level of instability in our society too. Like whether you like or don't like what they did. I mean, like Joe Biden did let a bunch of people into our country. I mean, even
Well,
if he doesn't like it, it's
I
still it
mean,
kind of happened.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think that you raise a point. It's not as though immigration, like, I mean, two sides to that, right? Like, firstly, whilst it's absolutely true that there was an immigration policy, I don't think it's a case of that. Certainly, a lot of the open border stuff is just not really connected to the lived reality of it. It's not as though people could walk from Mexico to America and not have to meet some form of immigration resistance. And it's quite true as well that many on the left have criticized the Biden administration and the Democrat Party for their continuation of many of the ICE policies and the way immigration is handled. Now, it's also true that, as you've just said, there's a clear sort of distinction between Democrats and Biden and such, and Trump and Republicans right now. But equally, both are criticised, one more than the other because it's a step from sort of liberal-ish poor policies to fascist-ic policies under a different government. But I would say that it's part of the wider sort of decay into fascism, that it's not as though just because there's Democrats in charge, there's just perfect harmony and everyone sort of is smiling and happy and such. Like there's clearly a systemic issue if we're having to if people perceive immigrants to be coming across the border as a problem, then there's something wrong, right? Because ultimately, some individual, even if it's the most stereotypical, oh, that they're just a drain on the system, like oh, there's nothing contributed to America or whatever. Like a society that puts its blame on this individual and says, yeah, this is the reason the country doesn't work. This is the reason it's not working and such. That's just fundamentally wrong, right? Because ultimately, even the most stereotypical does nothing immigrant is still someone that has had to try and leave their home to come to America because of the resources and the wealth and the better quality of life they're hoping to achieve. Like, and that is what we should be addressing. That's for me the injustice, not that someone crossed the line, basically, that people don't have their human rights and feel they have to cross continents to try and get there.
Yeah, yeah. I can definitely understand stuff like that too. Yeah, because where they're coming from is like really bad a lot of times. So they're kind of like fleeing from a bad place to America. I feel like. Um,
But then it's not
yeah,
even just a case of fleeing from a bad place, like because it's not as though like Mexico and other countries in South America is like a wasteland. Like, there's still stuff there. It's just the natural pull factors of a country like America to places which are poorer, right? Like if there's more if there's more wealth and greater quantity of resources, and you also have more access to the things you need to survive, of course people are going to try and come there, like regardless of what is going on in their life. And so I think that people, um, the reason, one of the reasons we criticize the Trump administration's immigration policies so much is that it dehumanizes these people. It says, okay, well, they're not. It says these people are illegal and they're aliens, and therefore they are free to be persecuted and attacked by ICE, who have the jurisdiction basically to smash up neighborhoods and turn over entire districts, basically looking for people they think have committed the crime, which isn't a proper crime, really, is it? Committed the act of going across border illegally. And it's also worth stressing a lot of these people that are being detained aren't even really immigrants. They haven't actually moved. They are either undocumented and so maybe don't have all the paperwork. They maybe have come across on a visa that has expired and so haven't been informed they need to update it. Or in the worst case, they're just people that look foreign, and the ICE agent in charge, who often don't have formal training and don't know what they're doing, is just someone trying to basically look for foreigners, look for people they think aren't American, which is inevitably going to have some racial bias and some nationalistic bias in there. So that's why we're so keen to not just say, yeah, Trump's doing a bad thing, but specifically call it fascist and specifically say, okay, there's a deeper, more fundamental problem here than just, oh, they've broken immigration law.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So where do you want to go from here?
I don't want to go like in terms of like what would you say in response to what I've just said, right? Like the idea that there's an importance in actually saying, yeah, there's something a little bit wrong with the current manner of operations beyond just it being like a dodgy sort of policy. It's like an actively nasty thing to do, right? Like it's not good.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I do feel like some of the terms and labels they've been throwing on people, calling them like illegal aliens, and like the way they talk about people and treat people is it's very dehumanizing. Um, you could probably find a nicer, a more like a more respectful way to talk about people. That would be
Then
a
should
good
that
way to.
Yeah, but then should that division even exist in the first place? Though, would be the next step, right? Because as you've just said, I agree, it's dehumanizing. Like it's not good to see your fellow man, your fellow person as lesser because of something like a border or a national difference, or even just like not having the right paperwork. So
Yeah.
should it not then be the case that we critically interrogate the society that's doing this? And it's not just America. That we in the UK we have similar. I mean, it's not on the same scale, obviously, but we have like the Home Office sends out police and such to go and detain people that have broken immigration law here as well, and they don't have the same. They don't quite have the same reach and scope and such, and they aren't like killing as many people, but basically you still get people deported in the UK for breaching immigration law. The next step for me should be thinking, okay, is it right that we live in a society where people are treated like this, where they're not even given the same equal status as someone just because of their national identity, and then literally put in a van, taken to a detention center, wait a non-specific amount of time, and then sent to a country they've not even set foot in before?
Yeah. Yeah. It sometimes to me like I do feel like there is like but there are we do have like the normal regular citizens that there are immigrants that do come to countries legally though, and I mean, and I know there are people who don't go through the process, but I guess there's a
But would you
it's a
say?
difficult
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
it's a difficult sorry, I'm trying to think of how I'm supposed to speak. Yeah, like it's okay. So I guess what I would say about for the United States of America is I know that right now we did close the borders again, and now the process is going through normal again, mostly. And I know there are people who are in the United States illegally, technically still, but I don't think the problem is as big of a deal right now anymore because it's kind of under control.
But
So
that's not quite like I don't quite agree with that though, because I mean, firstly, there's millions of undocumented people in the country, and it's not. We often imagine this dichotomy between like regular sort of normal American or whatever and illegal alien, but in reality, undocumented people are just people that don't have all the paperwork, don't have the current up-to-date documents which the government require, which changes quite a lot per year. There's a lot of people who get caught out by just the government deciding one day to annul certain paperwork or whatever. And it's not like one or two; it's millions of Americans, a good chunk of the populace. One of the reasons it's been so traumatic seeing ICE just stamp around through neighborhoods is because they aren't actually like protecting Americans. They're destroying the American communities because, as it turns out, the divide between people based on national lines isn't that strong. A lot of the undocumented people that are being targeted are very much part of the fabric of the society. People that we consider just our regular neighbors and people that are just in the community doing stuff, same as anyone. And so that's why sort of we have this this question of how it can possibly be right to continue with this policy when even if the sort of idea that the border's shut and there's no more problems now were true and there wasn't any economic or social implications here, there's just a huge chunk of the American population that are just always going to be targeted. And especially when ICE have demonstrated that they aren't following any sort of procedure, they are handing power to people who aren't any on any sort of situation to determine who is legal and who's not. They're just sort of random people that have been picked up basically off Twitter posts and an advertising campaign, who are then given guns and given the authority to drive around as ICE and end up killing people and disappearing people off into middle of nowhere. So I think that for as much as of course we want to have things done the right way, there can't be a right way if this is the outcome, which is no matter how polite the ICE agent is, still going to be the case if we're just grabbing anyone.
Yeah, I do feel like, maybe there could be some type of a process for the people who aren't documented, that they could get access to becoming documented, and maybe like a large majority of these people could become legal citizens. I think that would be a good outcome if possible.
That's better
I
than
don't,
nothing, definitely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, it would be at least it would be a good start. But yeah, oh yeah, I guess about the ICE and like the ICE agents. Yeah, I do feel like, it wasn't done very like it wasn't organized and planned out very good how they did the ICE stuff. I also think in Minneapolis is one of the big issues. Also, the police not being there was a big problem too, because you had like anarchy out in the streets. You had people like rioting and rebelling, and then you had like federal agents with completely unrestricted. So it was a huge.
I mean, I feel like that. I mean, I'll definitely touch on that in a second. We'll come on to that. I would just say that what I didn't say a second ago was that the idea that legal and illegal should be a dichotomy. It sort of ignores the luck and the circumstance that goes into determining whether or not someone can enter. Like someone being legal or illegal isn't so much as like a moral choice as it is do you have the resources to be able to buy the required stuff you need to get in, to be able to pay for certain documents, to be able to have that avenue open for you. But let's go on to Minneapolis. So it's not as though that's the only place, or Minnesota. There's many states in which ICE operations have been protested, and they get protested because of the extreme increase in violence and danger for people at the other end of an ICE raid, which isn't just the immigrants being targeted and the undocumented, the sort of non-white Americans who are likely to be the target of an ICE raid, but everyone who's in the vicinity, basically, that is deemed not to be aiding or supporting ICE causes. So the reason, obviously, for the escalation in protest in Minneapolis was because a lady got killed by an ICE agent, and that is something which, again, demonstrates the sheer injustice of the operation, right? Like, supposedly, if you accept the sort of narrative that these people, the Republicans say, or the people who wrote these policies say, they love the idea that there's Americans need protecting, there's crime and whatever, and there's all these bad things which supposedly are the fault of undocumented immigrants and such. But here is an ICE operation that has so devastated and disrupted the community that a person has been killed, right? And not just one, but several just this year alone, right? So like there's a clear injustice, and that's why people protest. And I think it's silly to try and like the violence clearly started with the ICE agents, not the people who are sort of protesting in response. And just before you respond, Invincible, I almost said Invincible, Invincible Tony says, I'm curious why there is this perception that Biden opened the border and Trump closed it. Biden still deported around 4.5, I would assume, million people. That seems a lot. There was a 460% increase over his entire term. 4.5, 450,000. Let me find it out. But so yeah, that's Tony's.
It must be a million. Must be a million.
You'd assume so, wouldn't you? But that seems a lot.
It's more than Obama, I think. Then, so I don't know.
It's increased continuously because one of the critiques of our system is that we're lurching further into fascism, right? Like it's not the sort of furore over like deporting people and getting the immigrants out or whatever is one of the problems we've got with fascism. But yeah, I'll let you respond to what I just said about Minneapolis.
Okay, yeah. So I guess what I would say is, from what I've heard about the people being killed, one of the events that I saw looked like extreme act of police brutality. That was like 7 officers just shooting one person like multiple times. That one, I can't defend that, or I can't see any middle ground. That's just like an evil thing to do. But when that lady who got shot, that one. I didn't. So personally, I didn't think he needed to shoot her, but she did try to run him over with the car, and she did try to flee. I think his response wasn't a very good response, but yeah, and I know there's been some other instances also. I don't know if I remember them off the top of my head, but yeah.
I mean that I don't think that description matches the footage and the actual events that took place. But even if we were to accept that, because you know it's even if we accept that timeline, should it not be the case that the agents of the state who are entrusted with this should have the training to be able to de-escalate a situation, not shoot someone in the head just because they think they are under threat, right? Like it shouldn't be, if you're entrusting people to conduct these activities, they shouldn't, like the murder of someone should be the last thing that happens. And ultimately these agents have demonstrated, especially not just in this incident where like the most dramatic things happen, but across any of the actions that they're doing, they've shown that with discretion, they are not to be trusted. They constantly cause this damage and harm, and they've killed numerous people over the course of the year. Renee Good, I believe. Yeah, Renee Good is the person who was shot. And ultimately, I don't think the footage, if we were to look, really sort of demonstrates the supposed.
Yeah, for Renee Good, I did watch. I've seen the full 360 version of it, and from what I can tell, she seems to be guilty. I mean, I don't know if she deserved to die, but I mean, she did seem to be. If you see one of the footage, it shows like some kind of like bones crunching from that guy. Until I saw that one, I didn't know for sure, but I saw the one on the other version. Yeah, like some kind of like noise, like when she did hit him technically. I didn't know that until I saw like the latest video, but
well,
yeah, she.
So go ahead. Sorry, I'm trying to.
Oh yeah, she. Yeah, you can go try to look it up. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there, but yeah, yeah, like she was like trying to get away. So what I can tell is that it didn't seem like she was intentionally trying to run him over, but she didn't care if she did. So it's obviously a little bit morally gray, but
well, I mean,
yeah, I don't know if
she.
I don't know. I don't know if she deserved to die, but it was like she wasn't in the right in that situation either.
I mean, we can have a quick look here at the video. Is 1 minute and 20 seconds long. We can, if I play this quickly, we can have a look at what this is obviously the Guardian's video.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my fucking god! What the fuck? What the fuck? You just
obviously a really harrowing thing to see, right? Like,
you are fucking criminals! You're fucking criminals! What the fuck? What the fuck? What the actual fuck? You are fucking insane!
Yeah, so
they are already trying to.
Oh, yeah, so that's the end of that one quickly. So I don't know, like to me that doesn't quite seem to be what the idea of it is morally great. Like to me, that's clearly.
Okay, so I don't know. I don't have the footage, but I know there's a couple other versions of the video. I mean, I can try to look them up. I don't.
What other angle?
Yeah, there's
to me.
Well, okay, so there's another part where she says, one of her like lady friends, I think, she says, "Drive, baby, drive," and there's the officer standing in front of the vehicle, and she decides she's gonna instead of submitting to the arrest, she says she's gonna flee from the arrest. And you also can see the police officer getting one of the footage you can hear him getting hit. So I mean, I had to dig them up where they're at, but
I think you would have to dig them up because I'm not sure. Like from
I didn't come planned with the footage, right? But I mean, I know it's out there.
Like that's not.
Yeah.
Like I mean, even if we were to like accept what you've just said, then like the cause for killing someone just isn't there. And let's stress as well, by the way, the danger that the sheer sort of devaluation of human life that ICE represent. I mean, it's not as though she's the only person that's been. We mentioned as you said yourself, right? Like the person who was killed by 6 or 7 of the officers, just the protesters. But the fact that the people conducting these raids aren't trained officers of any caliber, just people that have joined the organization basically to enact Trump's destiny or whatever, like, and end up committing these awful acts. Like clearly, there's something a bit more severe. I'm just going to turn the lights on because it suddenly got very dark. But if you quickly,
I'll say some other things. Yeah, I do think that the ICE agents probably did need better training and being better prepared to handle this stuff. I think that's pretty true. I also do feel like the protesting, it did also get kind of like the dial got cranked up a little bit more too. Also, there's people flooding in from different states to come in now instead of just the local people. It turned into a national issue. It's like the heat got cranked up a lot too, which doesn't help.
But people come to protest because they want to stand up for justice. I mean, we just saw a lady get killed basically, and even if we accepted that stuff was said or whatever, it's no defense. A person got killed basically just for living their daily life, and she's not the only one. And there's also, I think, a camaraderie, like a wanting to protect your fellow Americans, because the people that are being detained, they aren't like this idea that they're illegal aliens. That doesn't matter, even if it were true, because they are part of the community. They're part of the society we live in. They're a fellow human being. And so there's just a visceral reaction to the injustice of, seeing someone hauled off and disappeared and potentially dying, right? Because the conditions in the places they are being kept have been described as horrific, like just really inhumane, substandard food, poor quality, like beds and security and such. And so, there's just at every level of this operation, just disgusting behavior happening to these people. And that's why people would come in and try and protest, as well as the local population.
So one other thing I would say, though, is that I believe the Trump administration, they did put out the offer that people could turn themselves in to willingly be deported. So they didn't have to go out and find them. They could come to them willingly. I feel like
shouldn't be. That's like that.
So I mean, if you don't like how they're being taken out, they could have just willingly chosen to submit to it.
Yeah, but who would choose that though? Like, because it's not that is still we'll deport you either way, which is the unfair thing, right? It's just the method is on paper less violent than an ICE raid, which they're still going to the detention center where they're being treated like subhuman and stuff. Like,
yeah, still... I can understand the feeling of the emotion of that. It does feel pretty unfair, but all I'm really saying is that there was 2 options of how it goes about. You can like willingly or not willingly.
But that's
I mean, it does.
Like...
it does kind of feel terrible, right? I mean, like, it's hard either way, right? No matter what happens, it feels awful, like all this stuff happening. But there was a more peaceful route.
Like it's not just because you're right, it does feel awful, but it's not just about the feeling awful. It is awful. Like I think that's a fundamental here. Like it's fundamentally wrong that people are snatched out of society on the basis of something which ultimately doesn't really matter. Because like we could like if if people all around us, like I don't know about you, but I live in a city and there's loads of people from different backgrounds, just like other than just British. Like my background isn't my family come from the West Indies, like Caribbean and such. People have all sorts of different national histories and backgrounds and heritage that all mixes together into society. And as a result, if you walk down the street and say you walk past 100 people, you got no way of knowing really where anyone's like really from or whatever. Like people are from all over the place. And so as a result of that, the idea that someone would come in and say, well, actually, no, there are these distinct divisions between the legal and the illegal, which are just ultimately what someone has decided themselves, is a poor way to not only conduct a society, and then also have billions spent on ICE to be able to do this. Like, and for as much as like the choice, I mean, Tony says here, it's Project Homecoming and offers $2,600 upon making it to their home country. They also deprioritize them for detention and wait civil fines. Unclear on if it ruins future attempts to return. And I mean, $2,600, but you're deported seems a rather ridiculous deal. And especially, you're still being treated as a criminal. You're still being ripped out of the society you've lived in for likely your whole life. A lot of these people, and would you want to be put in another country, like on the basis of not having a correct bit of paperwork that you may have already had, but just got annulled by the government, potentially, depending on, given some of the raids that have been taking place? Like, is that something you would want to do?
Yeah, I do feel, I think at first it was like $1,000, so that's generous saying $2,600, but I do feel like they're again, like if I do categorize, there's like different layers of like, but I mean, I know that it all kind of feels awful, but there's people who've lived like maybe in the United States of America for like 10 or 20 years as being what they call like an illegal foreigner, but for them that they've lived this country for years, they have a family, they built a home, all this stuff. So for that, to me, like maybe they don't have the right paperwork and then they get put to some other country. That doesn't seem like really right. But there's different layers of it. But yeah,
but like that's firstly, like that's what they're doing now, right? Like people who have been here, and not just here, but like proper part of the community, as American as anyone, and they're being targeted. But secondly, the broader injustice, and I think we can connect this a little bit to the sort of religious elements of this as well, is that they're all people, and that no one, regardless of immigration status, should be treated like this. I think the one of the things which really sort of stands out to me, and sort of one of the reasons I wanted to discuss this with you, is that a lot of the people who are right at the heart of the policy making, the Trump administration's big higher ups who are put in charge of ICE or writing paperwork that is going to declare millions of people now illegal, they are calling themselves Christian. They call themselves the warriors of God or whatever. And they say, yeah, we're doing this because we want to make America a great Christian nation or whatever. But treating people like this, where you're tearing them away from their families, where you're ripping them out of the communities they're in, where you're putting them in abhorrent conditions in detention, when you're literally killing people like we saw a second ago, these aren't things which a person that is calling himself a Christian would support or sort of agree with, right? Like these aren't things which fit the sort of stuff that Jesus was saying. So I was wondering what your what sort of angle you would have to sort of this side of it, the idea that these people almost are masquerading their quite awful ideas behind something they're calling Christianity.
Yeah, we can shift this a little more to the religious angle too, but I do feel like the Republican Party is kind of they manipulate the idea of like the evangelical party and like the Christian faith as like their identity, when really it's like Christianity doesn't belong to like the Republican Party. It's just one party. I mean, really, both parties can be Christian. Really, anyone could be a Christian, regardless of your viewpoints and stuff. But yeah, the Republican Party has been kind of like using the Christian faith to like push their own narratives and agendas and stuff, trying to make their identity like the Christian faith. And if you're not following like Republican Party, then you're not a Christian either, which becomes very dangerous like rhetorics and stuff too.
I agree. I agree. It's quite dangerous. Just quickly, I was going to. I have noticed you punges in the chat. I've not been ignoring you. You're constantly great as always. But I've this came in a second ago. What a waste of money paying to remove a vital economic contributor at your own expense and just handing them a lump sum on top. That's some great economic management. And I largely agree. Right, like it's you're spending. ICE have had billions spent on them, like just billions poured down the drain, taking money away from like schools and transport and healthcare and all sorts of stuff for what essentially amounts to just chasing after people who are part of the country to begin with and contributing to said economy. But also, like what you're paying money to get rid of someone, like it's just strange. But no, on that point, you're quite right. Christianity isn't in theory something which has like a political party. Like there's no like set thing, but it is important to think about why this group in particular would call themselves so overtly Christian and evangelical and Protestant, and sort of say, yeah, we are and Catholic. That's some of them as well. But all this sort of effort put into sort of Christianizing, religifying. That's not a word. Making more religious the movement, because it's not as though America has had a long history of Christianity being at the center of its conduct and such, right? But until fairly recently, it wasn't quite as obviously overt and blatant as the most recent administration. The fact that they are making the argument that they're returning America to Christian norms until recently was more of a sort of in the background thing. It's never been quite as open and overt as we're seeing now in the last like few decades or so. But that is sort of why we're criticizing it, because why I'm sort of putting it to you, certainly, because whilst you're quite right, there's anyone can have a viewpoint. Someone can believe anything and then still be a Christian. These Christians specifically have taken a large part of the narrative about Christianity, and they then use that as a means of doing really atrocious things. Like the person that says, in the name of God, I am supporting ICE, is surely not being surely there's an issue there if Christianity is being so obviously represented by people that have the power to destroy entire livelihoods, especially in because I think it's not as though because I've always been reticent to just blame Christianity as a whole, because there's 2 billion Christians, right? But in my mind, if you're right there, like if you've got this religious faith and such, like in America, and there's people who dominate the sort of landscape and they're doing these things in the name of Christianity, in my mind there's something just grotesque about that, right? Like there's something really awful. Like if like I'm a big fan of football, right? And if there was a popular movement of fans of the same team I supported that were doing these awful things, at some point I would say, yeah, hang on a second, there's something a bit like awful going on here. This is just like, this is not okay. Like, would you say you share a similar sort of feeling, like a similar sort of critique?
Yeah, I can understand that, like manipulating your faith to get kind of get what you want, make a movement. Yeah, there is like a level of like some kind of like an ugly feeling, or like a little bit of like, there's a lot of words you could use. But yeah, like it's it's definitely something that I would. Yeah, I think you used the word grotesque. Yeah, it's kind of a grotesque thing to do. I do feel like I personally hold to the notion of like a separation of like church and state. So it's when the church starts becoming the state, start having a lot of problems. Like I do believe it's the church's responsibility to help influence like things, but not necessarily to become the actual authority itself. Because like the government's to me it's like the government's job is to be the government and the church's job to be the church. That doesn't mean they can't ever like mingle together, but that they're not supposed to be the other role.
Yeah, a lot of that I agree with, but like at the same time, you know, the government, because I agree, church and state should be separate, but evidently the churches, I mean, firstly, the church obviously as an organization has clearly been influenced. A lot of them have been influenced quite a bit by this quite right-wing interpretation of Christianity, right? But if they're influencing people and they have this not only right-wing mindset, but the sheer wealth of some of these billionaires, you know, there's clearly a bit more of an issue than just it being like a feature of society. Like it's I think there needs to be something said more overtly about the way people have not only smeared the idea of church and state, but are actively masquerading as like the most Christian people, Christian Americans or whatever, and then doing these heinous things. Because like the immigration is just one element of it. Like the idea that you would take money out of schools, for instance, to fund ICE raids is just so brazen. Grotesque is the word I used because it's true. I like it. It's someone sat down and said, yeah, we're gonna just cut this program which is feeding kids that don't have the money to pay for school meals, so we can send more armed men after probably the same kids, right? Because it's the same immigrant children that are probably in the poorer school that then get the targeted actions of the state. So you know, it's really quite unpleasant, I think, to have this in society, and therefore why we've got to make this link, because you know Christians, like in my mind, if someone is, if I were religious, and someone is in the same country as me, in the same sort of government, trying to pretend that these actions are like the name of God or whatever, like there's something like clear to say, actually, no, these people are fascistic manipulators who have slapped a load of religious iconography onto their actions to try and get away with really heinous stuff, right?
Yeah. So I guess one thing I would say is that, I mean, for the Republican Party, I was never really a supporter of like the Trump and the Make America Great movement. If anything, I like the more of like the more normal, moderate, traditional conservative party. It's kind of warped into the Trump party. I mean, I didn't really like it, but I mean, he did kind of win the vote, so there's not much really you can do at a certain point if you win legally. But I was never happy with the Trump side of the
I mean,
Republican Party.
yeah, I mean, I'm very glad you're not happy with it, but don't you think it should go a bit further than that? Like, don't you think it should be like, so, I mean, for one, the fact that Trump was able to win in that environment suggests that there is something bubbling in those right wing spaces, which does then lead to the pursuit of wealth and power and fascism and such, right? Because ultimately, whilst there is clearly a difference between like the, I don't know, like previous generation of Republicans, George Bush and such, and Condoleezza Rice, like you still got that same belief in business over the people, belief in having the right to unchecked power, you know, but having the right to accumulate power, belief in the same tacit hierarchy of society into various nations and populations and groups and such, and you know, like the anti-LGBTQ, the tacit racism, like all of that was still there in that party. And the far right have come, as you said, they've taken over and they've won a lot of power within it. But there was still something there for them to spring out from in a way that wouldn't be possible if the party was less right wing. And so, you know, like I think that for as much as a lot of people, because I also agree, I don't think that MAGA is quite as popular as they like to claim they are. But one of the issues is that there's a lot of people who are in the same vicinity as them, who are right wing and they believe in a lot of stuff the GOP does. But when it comes to the really heinous stuff that they're saying, the openly racist, openly misogynistic, anti-immigrant, etc., they're, as you've just done, sort of saying, well, yeah, they won the vote, we're going to have to sort of just go along with it, and not like, actually, hang on a minute, these guys are just claiming because they're Christians, they can do all these terrible things.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think so. I have like maybe two different points I kind of would say. One, I think one of the reasons that Trump did win is because there really isn't like a very good, strong, clear leader who can oppose him. I feel like, which is a very big problem. I think the Republican Party severely lacks another candidate. I also think the Democrat Party also lacks a good, strong candidate. So there really isn't enough force to actually technically really challenge him. I mean, you can try, you can challenge him, but there's not like a really good, because like that wasn't really like anyone for the Republican Party that really was going to be able to like run against him. They didn't get any support. Joe Biden, I feel like would have been good, but he's just too old and he's like losing his mind. So he kind of had to bow out right before, which didn't help at all either. They didn't have time to get a good candidate either. So he kind of just came in and basically was just like unopposed, which is, I think, like a downfall of the Republican Party and even the Democrat Party too. So I think that's one major, and that's something we need to fix for the next election. We need to start finding better candidates who can actually just run.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that's going to happen.
Yeah. Did you say there was a second point? So you said you had two.
The other point I think for what you're saying is about a lot of these issues. I feel like really up until more modern day times, like another problem one could say with the Republican Party, probably even more traditional people, is a lot of us, we never really like talk about like our feelings, and we never bring out all these issues out to the light. So we kind of just like stuff our emotions deep down. We kind of hide and cover all this stuff up, which doesn't help with ever dealing with like these problems like bigotry or like how you feel about racism or LGBT and all. It used to be that you never talked about it ever. You just kind of like just ignored it, and that doesn't fix problems. I feel like ignoring problems doesn't do anything about them. It just makes it worse, really. So there's that problem too.
Okay. So two really interesting points. So firstly, I do agree actually that there's a lack, almost a paucity of people with the sort of leadership abilities and the sort of popular sentiment to take on Trump. Now, I think it's a mix of reasons. So in the GOP, one of the reasons that Trump was able to rise to the top was because they had, in the last two elections, McCain and Romney went against Obama, lost quite badly. And that is a sort of speaking to the idea that centre-right, right-wing, neoliberal, support of capitalist like trajectory and stuff is just unpopular. Like it's not of any. No one likes it because it doesn't really work, and it doesn't have the if you're struggling to make ends meet and someone's like, yeah, come on guys, just go along with the norms, business is great, it doesn't have that support. Trump came out and said stuff which is obviously overtly racist and bad and horrible, but speaks to that undercurrent of discontent via racist forms, and therefore wins some support. It's worth stressing, of course, that our electoral system makes it much easier for unpopular candidates to win. Trump has never had the majority of support of America, and has never got the sort of majority that he claims to have. It's the voting system we have which make it far easier for the GOP and Democrats to be able to win these elections, because there's no one else that can gain the support and the numbers to be able to win in an election, let alone the Electoral College. But I did also see, which I'll bring up, Hellion's comment, which is Biden losing his mind is pot calling the kettle black, I think in reference to Trump's interesting trajectory under his term. But on that point, Bernie Sanders, not to go on about him, but he was someone that might have had the profile to beat Trump in 2016, but for the sort of machinations of certain people in the Democrat Party. And it's worth stressing that even in these elections, there's a lot of stuff that also happens which scuppers the democratic process. Gerrymandering, the lack of a fair voting system, the electoral college, obviously. The fact that most people don't vote, more people don't vote than do, which sort of suggests that there's wider discontent with centre-right and right-wing politics and such. On the second point, that no one talks, I think that there's lots of reasons for this. Firstly, that people lack the time because you're in a capitalist system. You've got to work all the time to be able to afford rent, food, bills, etc. And so the idea of sitting down and having a discussion with people is something which isn't always going to be wanted by people who are maybe tired and want to just like use the little time they have to actually relax. But secondly, I think it's a bit of a misnomer almost. People would happily talk, but there's a lot of bad faith actors that make it very hard. Like, for instance, I remember I was at school sort of about a decade ago or so, and anytime like feminism would get brought up, and you'd have like a billion people saying, "Oh yeah, well, feminism means that they hate men, and feminism means that they're going to take away men's rights or whatever." And so that bad faith interjection makes people a bit defensive. I think, okay, well, why am I going to want to spend time discussing with someone the intricacies of gender inequality with someone that, like, I don't know, puts anti-SJW, I hate feminists in their thing and is part of an unhealthy culture of stuff going on. And so this polarization increases as you get these bad faith arguments, and then leads to this perception that no one talks and no one discusses issues. And I do want to come on to, in the chat, there's a hello, some man and geek as well. There is a bit of a discussion happening about the Democrats and whether they're right wing or left wing. So this.
Hey, so real quick here. I was just gonna ask. So, like, is it okay if I maybe take like a 5-minute break? I just gotta like use the restroom and get some water, and I'll let you talk about figure out how to do this here.
Absolutely fine. I'll talk to the chat quickly. So, this comment here from some random geek: Democrats are right wing because they are pro-capitalism is ultimately the truth, right? Like, ultimately, a party which has the capitalistic ideas of the free market and of business and ability to control and own capital makes them right wing. Now, I absolutely agree. The Democrats and Republicans exist on an American spectrum where the Democrats are to the left of Republicans, but in the broader sense of analysis, they are still of the capitalistic mindset. They do clearly still support corporations and the idea that ultimately business should drive economies and such. And whilst I do think that it is worth being pragmatic, and it's not like as though Democrats are of the same level of right wing as the GOP, clearly there is still that importance to identify that one of the reasons that we're not going anywhere is because they still cling to many parts of not just capitalism, but like this American turbo capitalist mindset where you can't pay for things with government money because it's some breach of the market conditions or whatever. Like Tony, the Democrats are to the left of the Republicans, and there are some Democrats who have positions which are definitely radical in comparison to the average American position, but no, it's not. I don't think you can, because then, like, say the neoliberal decisions that Democrats make, like, that isn't something that's left wing. Like when a Democrat says, we're going to support business and we're going to help out the capitalist class with their tax breaks, and we're going to use taxpayer money to bail out banks and such, like, that isn't what left wing people want. It's still part of the same system. It's just it's less right wing than the GOP, who might act in a more business minded way. Like, it's still right wing. It's like 2 is bigger than 1, but next to 100 they're both quite small numbers. Like, it's the same sort of principle, right? Where was I? Hellion says, so it's interesting actually. There was potentially going to be, I may put a link in the chat later, but if typically I tend to have this just myself and so on speaking, but I might put a link in there later. There's a there's a range of things that happen. What other comments are there here? Let's see. Left-leaning politics isn't just about pro against capitalism. The differentiating factor between left-right economics in America is around government intervention in the economy. But ultimately, that's still like on a broader scale, which America exists in because it's part of the world, right? Like there is still that capitalist element, which is what right-wing is orientated around. Like, if you're left-wing, you want to challenge hierarchies. You want to say, okay, what is the barrier to justice that exists in society? And one of those barriers ultimately is the free market, is capitalism, is the idea that vast parts of our human life are coordinated around someone's business interest. Like I can't eat food without engaging in the market. I can't exist without living in a house which is owned by someone else. I can't exist without electricity which is controlled by a mega corporation that owns the world. So there's a lot of stuff which I think is clearly connected to the capitalist system, which even if you like a government intervening against the economy or with the idea of helping a market and such is still part of that system. Like people within the capitalist system have said, okay, we're going to reduce some of our resources. Like it's an intervention on the market, but it's not breaking from that capitalist structure. And as we see, many of these politics of supposedly Democrat parties are still funded by the corporate world. They're still, bankrolled by people who are happy to yield a little bit of their capital because they know they've got to do something to stop everyone from just dying, but still ultimately protect their own interests. They still say, okay, we're going to keep this vast part of society for ourselves, and the poor can have a bit more because the poor can have a little bit of our stuff because we actually do need workers to live so we can make our fortunes. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot which needs to be said for actually the Democrat Party, whilst may have some very progressive people within it, whilst they advocate for the free market and for capitalist structures, they are still right wing. And yeah, that does lead us to the idea that right wing people, right wing systems are ubiquitous, and they are in a capitalist system. They are everywhere, even in countries that claim not to be capitalist. They are still at force. Like the whole point of a left wing ideology or alternative is broader social change. That would look very different to the society we live in now in the sense of people eating and living and such. But in terms of even sort of the time frame we're sort of living in, right? Like there's still that quandary of, okay, the Democrats for a very long time have been neoliberal and corporate and are afraid to actually intervene in the market, as people have sort of pointed out for a very long time. Kamala Harris didn't represent that radical change that is needed in a country like America, where millions of people can't afford healthcare, millions of people can't meet their monthly rent or have to miss meals to be able to afford their bills. Millions of kids go to school, and if they don't have their lunch paid for by a free meals program, they can't eat. These are things which need urgent infrastructure. How many cities don't have decent bus routes? How hard is it to get from one city to another without a train line put in place? I think even just a step to away from capitalistic arguments and such towards one of a more social democratic step represent a massive step to the left in American context, but are still ultimately connected to that rejection of right-wing ideas which aren't present at the moment. Let's see. I agree with you, Owen, that America's a right-wing system, not contesting it, but I think there is a thing as left capitalism, and I think modern liberalism pushes the notion of positive rights. Like, yeah, that you can be left-wing and try and do things within the system, but I think the point is that it isn't ultimately, that is still capitalist, and that's still the point. Like even the best social democracy in the world with an amazing welfare state and really good human rights and stuff still has market conditions and still runs into the same problems of not being able to just infinitely grow and not being able to just endlessly accumulate profits, and that exploitation of labor and the wider world, which ultimately, if in the West we rely on a network which is exploiting global South countries, and eventually you run out of resources and you run out of ways to do that, and you end up lurching to the right to maintain that network of exploitation, or have to say, yeah, enough is enough, let's take another step to the left. And when that happens, a lot of right people don't like it. And I think for a second Phil was coming back there, but his internet has dropped again. Hopefully he'll sort it out. It's as Poonager's YouTube group says, left-wing capitalism is an oxymoron. And I will say that this image isn't him. It's a bit of a you have to go to his channel and work out what this is an image of. Right, Phil's back. Hello, Phil. All right.
Okay, yeah, you can finish up whatever you got to say here. Yeah.
That was largely at the end of it. I was saying that in a moment I might put a link to, because your friend Ace wanted to come on, and there's some people in the chat who may also want to voice a few things. So I am open to maybe opening the lines.
I'm open to I'm open to that if you want to do that. So it's your decision though. Yeah, you decide what you want to do.
Yeah, maybe in a little bit. What we were talking about the fact that the Democrats and Republicans haven't really had a leader with the same, I hesitate to use the word charisma, but like the same energy that Trump has, or certainly not one in positions of power, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. And so like part of the reason we I am linking fascism to this is because both parties have been right wing, or certainly acting in a way which supports business and the neoliberal agenda, and sort of not really considering the needs of the average person as much. And it's absolutely worse. Like I will stand here now and say Democrats are far less bad than Republicans, and if Trump had lost to Clinton or had lost to Harris, we'd be in a better situation than we are now. But at the same time, there's still that large part of American society which hasn't been helped for a very long time. The lack of money for healthcare, for transportation, for rent prices skyrocketing, for rising cost of living, for food and such. And so because there's no, the things you would need to do to address those things come from a left-wing candidate that says very firmly, yeah, we've got to intervene on the market, and we've got to say it's not fair that billionaires exist whilst some people starve, and some people can't afford to have a house whilst others have like 200 properties and are part of some corporate landlord scheme. But these changes, these interventions are firmly against the idea that you have a free market and that you can just endlessly accumulate money and capital and such. So I think that because the parties that exist are quite corporate and have that moneyed existence already, it's hard or harder for someone like that to come in. And to be fair, you get in some places like I'm sure you're aware of Zoran Mamdani, who certainly seems to be a big step to the left compared to the average sort of stuff that you see, certainly compared to his predecessor, right? But it's so profound and big because it's very hard for people like that to get the money and the capital to actually, not the political capital, to actually do these things, which is why people get disenfranchised and unhappy, which then makes it easier for a fascist like Trump, who, for all his claim of sort of being different from the, is the microphone a bit quiet actually? Hold on a second. Thank you, Helion. Edit mic settings, line up. And I can't. Right, hopefully that sounds better, Helion. Because Trump can masquerade as this. Oh, I'm the people. I'm the I'm the people that aren't. That's what I'm saying. Trump can masquerade as a person that has people's best interests at heart, and then win with a fraction of the people that you'd actually need to be a legitimate person of the majority, and then trample over everyone's rights so that he and his corporate buddies can make more money. Like, that is why Trump appears to be, someone who speaks the truth, whatever, and then why he can, do those things. But yeah, you go ahead, Phil. You go and I've been speaking for a while. You can.
Oh
You can
yeah,
say
yeah.
something.
Trying to think of what I'm trying to respond to here. Okay, yeah. Yeah. I do. Yeah. I'm trying to think what am I trying to go for? Yeah. That we do need to. I think. Well, I know you don't live in the United States, but I mean, you got a lot of problems in the UK. The same issue, really, probably. But yeah, I think we do need to spend some time within like the next within the next election cycle, trying to find better candidates to start propping up to lead the country. I think we need to get better Republican and better Democrats to come, so we can have we got better leaders. So our country can be better again, I guess, or we can a less terrible someone is not going to be like a Trump, who's not going to be like you call him like a fascist. Like if we can get like a normal president again for like 4 years or 8 years, I think it'd be good for our country and even the world
I
in general.
agree, right? Like it would be great to have someone that isn't like Trump, but we've got to look at the system that's produced him, right? Like Trump, a billionaire who, oh, excuse me, sorry, that's, yes, thing caught my throat then. Yeah, someone who a billionaire has made tons of money off a system which fundamentally doesn't really support the average American's needs, as we're seeing now, cost of living crisis, people spending tons on being able to just afford their monthly rent and such. He's rich and benefiting from this system, and then when we have an economic crisis like in 2008, which sort of is a backdrop to the Trump era almost, he's been able to come in, blame the problems on various minorities and sort of marginalized people and on various social issues that already existed, and then through that violence, that state violence against marginalized people, destroy many of the protections of democracy and the absolutely not punitive, and the make it easier to accumulate more wealth at the expense of the environment and of democracy and of the state functioning, basically, right? So to challenge that and to have someone that's normal or even just better than Trump, we've got to say, okay, what are the factors that have led this person to take charge of the party? And do we need to actually think, okay, a large part of our system is fundamentally broken if someone like this can come and just basically become a dictator, can say, yeah, I don't care what the law says, I'm in charge, I'm going to make as much money as possible, and I'm also going to set the state basically on all my enemies that include millions of immigrants, marginalized people, LGBTQ people, all sorts of parts of society. So my question to you almost is, I agree. I'm a pragmatist. I want there to be a better society with more people cooperating and stuff. But for there to be cooperation, there needs to be some shared agreement of what is going on. And at some point, that involves saying to people in the Republican Party, you have had a fascist take over your entire stuff. Is it now time to cut ties and be ruthless and almost like say, okay, we got to stop with this right wing stuff because it's just led us to this awful pathway again?
Yeah, I think that's kind of true. I also feel like my disposition is Trump is going to be done with being president after his term, and then he's going to be out. And then we're gonna have a whole new can of worms. Well, okay, if he isn't, then we're gonna have another set of problems. But I don't think he's not. I personally don't think he's gonna stay in. I mean, he can't do a third term. That would be actually like.
I mean, I agree. I don't.
I hope
right.
not.
But there's lots of things he can't do which he has done, and I also think that even if he steps down, there's this whole network which he's set up. I mean, the fact that he's like trashing at the White House to make his disgusting ballroom and stuff like that, like just things which indicate that there are a group of people in that party who believe now is their moment, right? Now is fascism, and so they want complete power. And no matter who president is, they'll have this power to just make as much money as possible and trample over everyone's human rights. And no one's going to be able to stop them because they've put people across various bodies of government and of the legal system to make it easier for it. Even the Supreme Court, right? Like they're under fire at the moment because they've not gone along with his latest thing. But it's not hard to envision Trump just like firing one of them or something and finding a way to get another sort of even more loyalist Trump judge on the panel on the corkboard to do it. I will now, as we're approaching the hour 20 mark, I will offer the floor to anyone. And I'll also put your questions in as well for us to answer. We'll turn this into a bit of a open thing. So that is in the chat. I've never done this before, actually. No, I've never normally one to just have open people on. So it's a rare opening one, which would be a rare everyone for me. But no, Phil, it's been interesting hearing your opinions on these sort of things, because I do think that there is this difficulty in identifying that the problems America faces aren't just like Trump being bad, but a systemic fault of the system which has led to capitalism decaying into fascism, and Trump and people who have no interest in democracy basically turning into America into its plaything, into something which is not going to be healthy for the majority of people. And so to challenge that, we've got to take a step to the left, or 10 steps to the left, basically. And
here, I'll ask you one more question, then then we can figure out what you want to do from there. So I'll ask you, what do you think the solution to this problem is? Like this perception that you believe is like the quote unquote like the fascism, right? What do you think the solution to this problem like is, in your opinion?
Well, okay, so long term, it's the identifying capitalism as a fundamentally broken and bad system which trashes the planet. But in a short term, it's got to be firstly justice for the GOP. If you're Trump or in the Trump administration, then you've got a court case coming to you, and you're going to explain all the stuff you've been doing for the last few years. But just addressing people's material needs. So a country where people have to choose between eating and paying rent is a fundamentally bad one, and so that needs money reallocated from the wealthy, so billionaires, Amazon, Apple, Google, all these massive entities of wealth that they have taken, redistributed back to people who need it, back into programs, back into schools, transport, healthcare costs, like make it so that people can afford to live in society, and therefore improve their material conditions and improve the ability of people to participate in their societal lives, and then therefore improve the society for everyone, instead of this horrid pursuit of wealth and power we're seeing from the rest of the planet and such. I don't know what you would say to that. Would that be?
I do agree that like rent is way too high. It's just that problem has to be dealt with. Like you can't even be alive. That's like a problem.
And so to challenge, exactly right. But we can see clearly it's a problem, but others just say, oh, it's a business venture. This person's got the right to buy 1,000 houses or flats or whatever, and charge the most they can from the people who have to have it to live, right? So to act upon that, there's got to be an intervention on the market, because you're saying essentially, actually, there's a limit to how much you can do this before it gets inhumane. And that limit ultimately needs to see housing as a social right, the same way that anything that we need to live should be. But anyway, he's been waiting long enough. Ace, hello. I saw that you I've added you to the call. Feel free to add your I don't want to say add, what's the saying? Add your
add my 2 cents.
Yes, there you go. That's exactly.
You may turn your volume down a little bit though.
Oh yeah. Hold on, let me edit my...
That's pleasure meeting you, Owen, and
Ace, you could turn your volume down. Okay.
I'll turn the volume down.
Okay, that's a little better. Okay.
I'll turn down a little bit. How are you, Ace? All right?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Just over here chilling, waiting for my time to come up. What topic you think I should start off with first? So,
well, I mean, we've been talking about fascism and politics and such, right? But firstly, I will say at some point we'll have a full stream ourselves, perhaps, if you wanted to go over anything in more detail. But for now, pick up on anything we've been saying over the last hour or so. And
okay, well, like one thing about like immigration, like I do agree with y'all. Like, I personally did have the mindset before then about like closed borders, but me being a libertarian, I kind of open up to freedom of movement. I think that's very important, and we just need to do away with ICE and many of these public projects that want to detain people for just moving around freely. Now if people come into this country and want to stir up problems and steal, rob, and all this other crazy stuff, then we have a right to lock them up. But like just
That's sorry, keep going. Sorry, keep
coming
going.
into our country and just being here, that's not a crime in of it itself.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think you're quite right. Freedom of movement is good. The freedom to be able to exist in a place is important. I would stress that it's very tempting to go down the line of people. If people are coming in and doing crimes, then we should have the right to deport them or whatever. Like, people in the country also do things against the law and commit crimes. And like I think the ultimate worry that the idea there's some sort of nebulous presence outside America that will come in and do things is very much a construction of the nationalist, the racist, the racial nativist, as we were sort of saying earlier, right? Like, there's no more threat outside than inside, and more importantly, the bigger crime is the loss of human rights that people have. The fact that people aren't necessarily being able to exist with their basic fundamentals preserved. Hellion has joined us. Hello, Hellion.
How you doing, Hellion?
The screen's slowly filling up even more, but all is fine. All is good. It appears as though Hellion's internet is buffering. I don't know if anyone else can see Hellion. But,
yeah, I see him.
He'll probably be on in a second. I know he likes to talk too.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are. That one can go. This one can stay. And look at this. We've got a fourth person on here. Hello. Can you hear us, Hellion?
He's probably just getting set up.
Okay.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. I can certainly hear you.
Yes.
How are you?
Yeah. Hi, Owen. Okay, so Phil wanted me to come and check this debate out, or I don't know, be a part of it. First off, what are we talking about exactly besides fascism, as Phil mentioned?
Sort of just open-ended, really. Like, it's no I mean, this portion isn't what I don't normally sort of do, this open-ended side of things, but for the last
okay.
Hellion, maybe you want to turn your volume down a little bit more, a little bit
lower. Oh, okay.
I can do it. Hold on. I'll
how's
There we are.
Hold on. Is that better?
Yeah, that's fine. Go for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're
okay.
Anything we can discussing just now.
Hold on. Is that better? Because I can turn the volume up and hear you guys, but if I turn the volume down, I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I think you're just a little loud. You're a little on the loud side, Hellion. I mean, you can hear us fine, but we hear you very loud.
Yeah, that'll work.
So yeah, Hellion, your opinion on anything you like in this. I mean, like I say, I don't normally do these sort of open form bits, but like go
Here,
for it.
Owen, I'll just say I'll say something here really quick. So like some of these are people I kind of bring onto my little Discord. We have, for me, I have lots of open-ended conversations. This is kind of what I do. But you're probably used to one-on-one. But like, I bring in like
Yeah,
five,
that's
six people, and we all kind of hash it out. It's like a little chaotic sometimes. Okay, I'll let you guys talk here. I'll pull back a little bit, but yeah, okay.
Go for it, Hellion. Or Ace. Anything you like. Anything you want to say.
I'll wait for Hellion to see what he's got to say first.
Well, I'm still setting things up. How's my volume for my speaker? Is it okay?
Personally, it sounds fine to me. I have no idea how it sounds on the actual
Oh,
video.
okay.
But
Okay.
let's go for it, and we'll see how it goes as we go.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not blasting, making people go deaf here. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I don't really have much to add at this point. So I'm just gonna wait to interject. I guess.
Did you when we were discussing the sort of fascistic elements of the Trump administration and such, and the wider problems facing American society, you know, the lurch into right-wing ideas and the adoption of Christian iconography and such as part of that fascist embrace and such, are these things that you think are pertinent and relevant to modern societal analysis and something that we should be addressing to try and fix things?
Do I think that the adoption of Christianity is a part of fascism? Is that the question?
Not quite. No, like it is. Would you say? Well, there's like 4 or 5 questions there. Like basically, America is going fascist, and the fascists are using Christianity as a tool to force through some of their fascist elements. Is what I'm trying to say. Basically, you know, far right use of Christianity as a tool.
Well, I mean, that's I think it's very obvious, at least to the informed or the well-read, that that's always been the case. Abrahamic religions, all 3 of them, the more and in general, organized religion, the more you go into organized religion, I don't care what the religion is, you will almost always wind up in a conservative hellhole. Honestly, a death spot. Do I think? I mean, are you asking? Do I think it's a consequence? No. I mean, I'm just gonna say, look at Germany and look at what was on the belt buckles of German soldiers. And there's your answer from me, I think.
But it was on the belt buckles of German soldiers.
Yeah, let me get it. Hold on.
Are you wanting to share your screen, Hellion, or? I mean, whilst you're getting that, I'll say that I largely agree with what you just said there, right? Like, there's, whilst it's interesting thinking about religion's sort of conservative interpretations, I think it is important to stress that a lot of people would say there's a more left-wing interpretation of these religions. I'm not here to say which way it inherently is, but there's certainly, as you said very correctly, Hellion, there's that long-term historical use of religion as a tool for fascists and for the far right and such. And Nazi Germany had it. Lots of American slavery was justified by people claiming it was in the name of God. Chattel slavery, obviously, in America and such. And so there's lots of people willing to slap the spiritual onto their pursuit of power. And so identifying that this is a feature of right-wing societies, or a common feature, is really important, and is really, not like, as you said, right? Like, it's not as though it's just Christianity in the Middle East and in the Arabic world that are very right-wing societies that call themselves Islamic, and basically see massive amount of wealth concentrated in the capitalist class under the name of supposed Islamic practices and such, right? Yeah, there's no doubt
Yes.
about it.
Yeah,
Exactly,
I
right?
I mean now, and I should have said theocracies. Theocracies are I feel the end result anytime a state adopts a religion is you wind up in a theocracy. And Ace, to answer your question, what was on the was the phrase Gott, Gott, Gott mit uns, which is God is with us. I I I I don't think I really need to say anything other than that. Um, and but going back to what you were saying, Owen, yeah, overall, I am just afraid right now. I am afraid. I was gonna say deathly afraid, but I'm just there's so much tension right now. I would assume in some parts of the world, not the world over, but definitely in the U.S. right now. Um, I hate going on Reddit anymore. I do try to curate my feed, but I mean, it's daily. It's a daily assault of videos and clips of um, what's happening outside my front door, and I'm actually reminded of. Did you ever read the Lord of the Rings, Owen?
I must confess I've not read all of Tolkien's work, but I've seen the films.
Oh, okay, no worries. It's just a small phrase, but it's dangerous business going out your front door. I very much, yeah. It's dangerous business
That's
going
funny.
out
That's
your
funny.
front door.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
you're
go
quite
out my
right.
front door every day. I mean,
What was that? Sorry, Ace.
I
I go out my front door every day. I mean, it doesn't seem dangerous to me.
Well, I think that I was about to say, Hellion, I completely agree and share that feeling, right? Like it is bleak living in a world that has this just constant theatre of violence almost that is part of the wider sort of fascist project. The idea that anyone who isn't of the fascist in group has something to fear is something which is scary. And Ace, whilst I'm sure, maybe literally, you're sort of right in your immediate environment, there's no perceived threat. The threat of fascism is something that affects all of us, be it through the direct violence of ICE or Trump's wider international violence, or the rising cost of living, the destruction to the environment, the growing inequality that is directly supported by people with a moneyed interest in sustaining wealth and growing their business empires. And I think that it's also just a human cost too. It's upsetting seeing ICE agents smash through communities, or Trump smearing his face all over buildings which are supposed to be neutral, non-partisan justice buildings, or any of the the denial of science, the denial of climate change, like all these awful things that they're doing, has a cumulative toll on our spirit. But that's why it's important to try and give it a label, identify it as fascist, and try and be left wing, because ultimately, you said earlier, Phil, about why people were going to Minneapolis from different places and trying to protest, because people care about other people, and there is some things to say about just actually the simple human act of saying, yeah, I believe in humanity. I believe that we all are valuable and deserve better than being treated like this. And so that's why people come together and do things, and especially over the last year or so, why there have been so many international protests of all sorts of different causes, because people come together and can feel good when they're working together to try and solve a social problem.
No, I believe that we need to come together. I do believe that we need to come together, work together, to solve these problems. But you said to join the left wing. I mean, that's just the wrong system, the wrong parties.
Well,
What we really need is more capitalism, more libertarianism, and definitely far less government overreach. Because what you're talking about with ICE and all of that other stuff is government overreach, and that's precisely what it is.
Ace, I'm sorry, but are you suggesting that ICE roundups, immigration raids are part of a left wing overreach? Is that am I off?
It's part of government overreach.
Yes,
and
but
the
what?
left
Go on.
wings are in favor of government overreach.
So and how do you feel right now about everything that's happening right now, Ace?
Well, I mean,
Would you say that? Would you say that right now it's a little bit of a government overreach?
Well, yeah.
Okay. I don't see what left wing overreach, as you say, has to do with current events at the moment. And you think that libertarianism is basically going to save the day? Am I off?
Well, yeah, I mean, libertarian and capitalism, voluntary exchange, the NAP. I mean, with all of them together, working in unity. I mean, what's not to like?
Ace, let's just I'll cut to the chase. America is sliding, if it's not already there, and I'm pretty sure it pretty much is, into a non-cyberpunk dystopia. Now, given it's not as much of a dystopia as, say, I don't know, communist China or something. But you really think that that's basically what you're positing, that libertarianism and the supply chain and everything is going to save the day. We tried that in the 80s. Remember Reaganomics? I mean, I don't remember Reaganomics myself because I wasn't born then. Well, actually, I technically was. I was born in 87. But we tried the trickle down thing, Ace. It does not work. That's one of the reasons why we're here at this point in our time. And I know I'm probably talking way over your head, and I'm going to places that you've not thought about. But no, and what you just basically described was the economy. I don't see how economics is going to do anything other than be economics.
Yeah, I mean, Ace, I'm very interested in. Oh, sorry, Ace, are you saying something?
Oh yeah, I said, well, yeah, economics is economics, and like we're not talking about trickle down economics. We're talking about capitalism.
Yes, but trickle down economics is part of capitalism, and that's basically what libertarianism is one of the end goals. I think. And
yeah,
I mean,
say,
what you're.
Sorry to cut you
yes,
off,
I'm sorry, Owen. Go ahead, Owen. I'm sorry.
Not at all. I'd happily it might be worth, because obviously this stream's gone on for a little bit. It might be worth us having another stream at some point for maybe a more a more detailed look at this. But just to touch on it now, it's absolutely the case that the connection between, as Helen was saying, the switch to neoliberal Reaganomic policies, the handing of resources of the society to corporations and private industry and such, the lowering of tax rates, the general actions of corporate-minded people are absolutely connected to capitalism and operate through the state because that's the way our society has evolved, right? Like the fact that it says US government, ICE or whatever, doesn't change that it's still a capitalist function, because ultimately this is still people with capital, with money and resources, acting in the interest of their capital to try and maintain it or further it and such. Like that's like with the ICE raids, for instance, they are horrific and they are fascistic, but they're also part of, like ICE receive a massive lump of money from the government, who then subsidize and spend money on various contractors to be able to make a profit off incarcerating people and housing them in various buildings and such, and spending money on military grade vehicles to conduct their raids and such. Like there's clearly a moneyed interest throughout all of this, which is important to emphasize.
So yes, there is a money interest, but am I an individual? Do I personally get to pick and choose whether I support ICE or whether I don't support ICE? The money is taken out my paycheck, and government decides where my paycheck goes. That in itself is theft. I should be able to decide whether I want to support ICE or not support ICE.
Ace, I'm sorry. We're not. This is. I feel like this is. You're missing you're forest for the trees, my friend. Forest for the trees. You're. I mean. I'm sorry. I'm getting hung up on what you're getting hung up on, and yeah, like I don't see what this.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to have a
public program, not a private program. I don't have the option to support ICE. I don't have the option to not support ICE. The money is taken out.
So Ace, what it basically sounds like you're basically winding up to say is, I'm not the bad guy because I personally don't support ICE, even though the government is taking money out of my paycheck to support ICE. I don't care about that, Ace. I don't care about you, the individual, and what you want your money to go towards. I don't care about that. I care about what's happening in the streets, what's happening every day. I don't care about what's on your little piddly paycheck. And I don't care who it goes to. The point is, what's happening now? What's happening outside your front door?
But you're a socialist, though. You're supposed to care about the working class people.
I am working class. We're pretty much all working class.
And
every influencer thinks that they're higher than that. Everyone on TikTok thinks that they get in front of a camera and they go to fucking Home Depot and they do a little dance. They think that they're a celebrity. So I don't really see. Can you just get to your point, Ace, on what you're trying to say? Because I feel like you're trying to say I'm not the bad guy because I don't personally see or know where my money goes personally. So what's your point, Ace?
And just before you do say that, I will stress that we'll have a full we'll organize perhaps a stream, Ace, where we can go over it more in depth. I will say just before you jump in that the issue seems to be here the way capitalist society mismanages democracy and makes it so that, as we've said, people don't really have a say in how the money generated and resources generated are put towards in society, and that's very different from a
See, that's not
left-wing.
capitalism, though. That's government mismanaging our money.
Government as controlled by corporate capitalist interests. So, like the government isn't the government is just the vessel for which the capitalist society is organizing through, right? Like it's not. When a government says, "Oh, we're going to tax rich people less because they generate wealth," that's not the government doing that. That's the people who are in government who favor right-wing policies doing it, as Reagan did, as Bush did, as Trump is doing. When ICE, therefore, are doing operations, the government are the ones who have allocated them their resources, but it's led by people who are right-wing, benefiting from this process, and who have taken money away from like schools and healthcare and transportation and all the other things that your country needs to put money into massive ICE raids. Now, I will say we are coming up to 2 hours, and Ace, I'll 100% try and organize a stream for us to talk about these issues. And Helen, you're welcome to come, and Phil, you're also welcome. But we are slightly running out of time, and it's getting a little bit late in the UK. So if we head somewhat to a conclusion, just a little in the very near future, so I'll put out to the chat that any questions you'd like answered, please get them in from now. But yeah, we'll slowly head to our finish line very soon.
So I'll ask if there's anything you want to ask me or anything you want me to say before this is done.
Yes, Phil is here as well. That's Christian Connoisseur is the spotlighted guest on this stream. So anything you'd like to say to Phil. And obviously, Ace, you're welcome to come back in on what we were saying just then as well.
I'm just gonna leave it at that and just wait till I'm able to come up. But yeah, it has been an honor to talk to you. You've been a real good host.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed the majority of the chat and everything. Phil didn't remind me at 11, but regardless, I actually would love to come and talk again if you'd have me, for that matter. I know I can get a little uppity and a little crass and vulgar with what I'm saying, but it's really only because I'm passionate about these things that happen around me all the time, and I'm a little stressed out from it all, and a little scared, and I'm very happy that Ace and Phil don't have to worry about the things that I worry about. But yeah, I would definitely love to have another talk with you all.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, that's the purpose of this channel, right? To have these conversations. So yeah, we'll definitely get exactly right. We'll definitely get something sorted, Ace. I think you're in. I'm sure I've messaged you on Discord, or there's we'll get something sorted. And same for you, Hellion. We'll put them together. This video will still be up, by the way, Hellion. So it's not, even though the stream will end, you can still watch it back on replay and see what everyone was saying at the time and such. So that's all good. Just quickly in the chat, Tony says America has never been libertarian. What are you describing, Ace? Like ever? I guess that speaks. Sorry.
I said I'm aware.
Yeah, because it's for as much as like capitalism has always relied on that element of control that governments provide for them, which I suppose is partly why. Trying to think what other Hellion, you earlier said Trump is a reflection of the people and the people who elected him, people like my parents. So yeah, like the would you want to explain your thoughts there?
Yeah. I mean, my parents, I would hope they're not MAGA, but they did vote Republican. My dad, I asked him one time, I said, you're dyed in the wool Republican like a few years ago, and he said, yes, I am. And I mean, just briefly, I believe that they were caught up in the evangelical in the 70s, the moral majority movement during the time of Reagan and Nixon and stuff, that they got swept up in that fervor, that political and religious fervor, and they've just always voted that way. Ironically enough, they're not your typical Republicans. We didn't ever own guns, and my parents, I would, well, my dad at least is, I would say a more reasonable conservative Christian that does try to actually live out the teachings of Jesus. But regardless, I all feel it's just misguided. I don't need a book, a God to tell me how to feel, because I try to feel for everybody in my life, my friends, my loved ones, even my family. But Trump is a reflection of the people and of America at this time. Sadly, I'm a millennial, but Gen Z men apparently voted very, very right this election cycle, and so yes, Trump is a reflection of the people.
Interesting. We definitely voted more people than previously vocally supported Trump. But I don't think that I agree with what you're saying. Absolutely, like there's that racist, sexist, anti-LGBTQ, anti-progress movement in America, but definitely reflects a lot of it. I also think that it is disproportionately represented and able to portray itself as much larger than it is. Like, even with all the support, it is worth stressing that they don't have the support of the people that they try and claim they do. But then equally, fascism never sort of doesn't rely on actual majority. It relies on the perception of mass support and such. But this is a conversation. This is a conversation we can definitely pick up next time. Because sorry, we're going to say something else just before you.
I agree with that. I can get caught up in disinfo, misinfo on who really supports, who's really supported all this and everything. But I also feel that it's a bit of a pushback from the Obama years, that we elected a black guy and everybody hated it. I was still religious a little bit. I was coming to the end of my religious faith at that time. But, people in the Christian forums I was in said that Obama was the Antichrist and that he wasn't a real Christian and all this other stuff. So I feel like Trump, the emergence of Trump and why he is in office for even a second term is just a response to all of the pro LGBTQ, the pro just basically Trump has come in and taken a wrecking ball to democratic policies and stuff. And
exactly that. And yeah, I largely agree. Like, it's the backlash to the sense of progress that had been had in America previously, where a black person might be president, and they don't like that. Or certainly a lot of people anyway. But no, we're coming up to 2 hours, so we'll have to continue this another time. Like I say, we'll get someone organised. Thank you, Helene and Ace, but mainly thank you, Christian Connoisseur, Phil, for joining me on here. It was an interesting conversation. Hopefully everyone in the chat enjoyed it. Hopefully people who watch it back will enjoy it. My voice is starting to go over, so I will end the live part of the stream here.
Thanks for having me on. It was a good talk.
Thank you, Owen. You have a good one.
God bless.